Merry Christmas and welcome to another episode of Tai'Shar Manethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Will.
I'm Sam.
We are continuing along in The Shadow Rising. So, Sam, are we on chapter 31?
We are indeed.
All right, take it away.
All right, so Perrin and company meet back up with Verin and Alana, the old sick house in the woods outside Emmons Field, and Perrin demands to know why the Aes Sedai are there.
Yeah.
He's sort of horrifying Mistress Alvear with his lack of manners for the Aes Sedai. Verin's like, it's cool, she and Perrin go back at this point. So Mistress Alvear heads home. Verin tells Perrin that the reason they're there is to find girls who can channel. I guess it makes sense. Egwene and Nynaeve are from the Two Rivers and are two of the most powerful channelers in a generation, to say nothing of the three Ta'Viren that are also from the Three Rivers.
Right. The blood of Manethrin runs strong.
Strong, indeed, yeah. And she says they've had some luck finding a few girls who can channel, but they've sort of been disrupted by between the Trollocs and the White Cloaks that have been in the area, so they really haven't been able to look as well. And Perrin was like, well, so about that, why haven't you done anything about it?
Right.
And so then Aiel is kind of horrified at his manners. Then Loyal tells the Aes Sedai about the ways and how he locked them to hopefully prevent the Darkspawn from entering the Two Rivers. Then Tam and Abel Cawthon show up with rabbits that they've killed for the Aes Sedai, kind of in trade for some healing that the Aes Sedai have done for them when Abel Cawthon took an arrow through the knee, so to speak. Not literally, but...
Right.
So Perrin goes outside and kind of compares notes with Tam and Abel. And it's kind of crazy. They say that they went to the White Tower last year to kind of find out where their sons were and sort of got vague assurances and pockets full of gold for their trouble. They didn't really, Lyanna told them just oh, they're fine. You don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
Sent them on their way. And of course, that brings up the sort of awkward subject of Perrin's family. But luckily, they are interrupted by a raven. So they see a raven overhead, and all three of them launch an arrow at it at the same time. Porcupine
Once again, furthering your whole
sniper.
Everybody in the Two Rivers is a sniper.
Exactly. That's certainly true. I was reading about crows the other day and how they're the most intelligent animal other than...
Dolphins?
Other than primates, potentially even, which was I thought was crazy. Because so often, ravens and crows are in all these high fantasy, particularly, are kind of portrayed as being evil.
Right. Well, they could be cunning, tricking us all.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we get to Dane Bornhall?
Yep, Dane Bornhall gets news that 2 children of the light died with Ordeith. Basically, he had sent them to sort of spy on Ordeith, and they just happened to die killed by Trollocs. Just sort
this
of
has happened before too. He kind of alludes to the fact that children of the light keep dying around Ordeith. There's just kind of a mysterious aspect to that he's starting to notice.
And we also find out what really happened at the Ibarra farm. Ordeith slaughtered the whole family,
right?
Which is crazy. We always think of the White Cloaks as being sort of lawful evil, and they would never do something like this normally. Just shows that how they are, Ordeith has potentially information they want, so they just sort of put up with it.
Well, I think there's also a thing here that lesson or parable, both Mordeth and the White Cloaks are extremes that were kind of created to fight off the Dark One.
Right.
And as I said, White Cloaks can kind of represent an institution. And, as we see, when people are no longer interested in the actual mission of the institution, they're about preserving the institution, whether that's a school or a church or whatever it is, then you will go to great lengths to actually go against your mission if it preserves that institution. I think that's an example of what we're seeing here, is that it's just fully confirming that the White Cloaks really are not about fighting the Dark One or finding Friends of the Dark or fighting Trollocs. They are an institution, and they're about control.
Yeah, we could draw some parallels to our current political environment, Will. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Don't worry.
Oh,
don't worry.
Jeez.
But I'm just saying, more to the point of, it happens a lot in a lot of different circumstances.
Yeah, an institution sort of exists to perpetuate itself and has like
Right.
moved beyond what the reasons it was created in the first place. I mean, you see it like in businesses and organizations where, maybe the original owners or founders have left and the organization that's there is no longer the organization it was because the people who are there exist as shareholders or to please the shareholders. Ordeith is really just trying to please the shareholders, I think.
I maintain, and I think some people, yes, indeed, they are lawful evil at this stage of things. But I maintain that at the core of the White Cloaks, there is something righteous that has been corrupted by their own ambitions and their own views of what
power. Yeah,
right, exactly. Anyway, I just always. The White Cloaks are intriguing to me because I feel like they represent something that a lot of folks can identify with.
Oh, yeah. And so we end this chapter with Ordeith sort of scheming about how he wants to use the two rivers as bait to draw Rand home. Really, Dane Bornhold is all about Perrin, but Ordeith is all about, he wants Rand. He wants Rand in his clutches.
And Ordeith is so clearly evil.
Yeah, he laughs. He cackles insanely.
He's speaking in multiple different kinds of dialects and accents and everything.
Right.
They even mention that the different accents have slightly different personalities when they're coming in. I mean, at this point, it's like you are definitely. What you're dealing with. There's no way. In earlier scenes, when he's talking with Pedro Nile, when we first see that, it's kind of like, okay, well, he might be a little eccentric.
Yeah.
But in this, he's just so clearly crazy and evil.
Yeah, he's chaotic evil at this point.
Right.
And he ends up, this chapter, torturing a Myrddraal and gets it to accept his demands, whatever those are, which is like, man, what did you do to that Myrddraal? They're not usually the type of personality that can be reasoned with.
You would think that they would take whatever you dish out, but that's a guy worth fearing.
Yeah, I'd say so. So chapter 32, Perrin and Tam and the whole band are headed to Watch Hill with the Aes Sedai because they want to free Master and Mistress Luhan and the Coffin family. And on the way, they stop at the Alcine farm, home of Will Alcine. His father, Jack Alcine, wants to know why the White Cloaks are after Perrin. So Perrin just comes out and is like, listen, I killed a few of them, to collective gasps. And he says, they killed a friend of mine and would have killed me. I didn't see my way clear to let them. So that's the short of it.
Not mentioning that this friend of his was actually a wolf.
Right. Right. That would take a little longer to admit, or longer to explain. We don't need to get into that.
Holding that piece of information back, I think, was key in him being successful in this discussion.
Otherwise, they would have been like, okay, so you're crazy. That's fine. We still love you anyway.
This is also where Aiel is gazing at Will Alcine.
Right, of course. Moon eyes, yeah.
He's apparently
he's a
very attractive fella, yeah. And she's just... Oh, and Perrin specifically does not want her to think that he is jealous, so he goes and is all buddy with Will Alcine, to specifically be like, yeah, I'm fine with this, whatever, I mean, it's cool. Yeah, you want to stare at this guy?
I think he's awesome. He's too cool.
I love this guy. Yeah.
You can just see him throwing an arm around him and pounding him on the chest. Give him a
Isn't this guy great? Isn't he the greatest guy? I have always said this guy is the greatest guy. Don't you like him, Aiel? I love him. I'd kiss him on the lips right now if that wouldn't be weird.
So then a little boy runs in and says, Lord Luke is coming. So we introduced to Lord Luke, and Perrin despised him on sight as the Alcines fawn over him.
Right. I definitely have experienced this exact thing that Perrin describes. Somebody walks in, people have talked about, oh, this guy is great, you're going to love him, he's awesome. They show up and it's just like, nope.
I can tell I'm not.
Yeah, this isn't happening. We aren't going to be friends.
Yeah, we can tell from the get-go. Yeah. And he's clearly not pleased to see an Aes Sedai in their midst, but covers his surprise well. I don't think anyone but maybe Perrin and the Aes Sedai realize his unease. I mean, turns out Lord Luke has been giving the Alcines and other farmers advice about how to deal with the Trollocs. He's told them to put boys on the rooftops to give warnings when the Trollocs come. Perrin doesn't think much of that idea, so Luke's like, well, what do you suggest? So instead of answering him directly, Perrin turns to face the Alcine family as a whole and says, you depend on the White Cloaks because each family is trying to defend their own farm, separate from the rest. Really, what you should do is go to Emond's Field, band together, and fend them off together. And then you wouldn't have to depend on the White Cloaks anymore. And of course, they don't love that idea because it would mean abandoning their farm. So it kind of like creates some controversy. Parents kind of like, well, I didn't really want to become the center of attention. But hey, that's the life of a Taviran, man. Like it or not, that's what happens. And also as a result of not only being a Taviran, but probably in part, they come around to his way of thinking and agree that, yes, we will pack up and head for town because we'll be safer there. We won't have to depend on the White Cloaks because they're not like they're really doing a very good job of helping anyway. I mean, obviously, we know in reality they're the ones that slaughtered the Abaras.
I think it's around this time that Perrin realizes that he's giving orders. Like, he didn't realize he was doing it till afterwards.
Right.
And he kind of turns to Tam, and I think he says something about realizing he called Tam and Abel by their first names.
Right. And they sort of stop calling him lad and like start kind of treating him with a little bit more respect. I mean, they were always polite, but it's like they start deferring to him.
And Tam even says, I've taken commands from a young man who could see what needed to be done before and said, you're doing a good job. And Tam beginning his role there as Perrin's lieutenant, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they head out, and Perrin sort of tells them he means to free Master Luhan, kind of tells them what his plan is, and is around then when Verin warns Perrin to beware of Alana. Seems ridiculous on its face because they're both Aes Sedai,
right?
And given what we know about Verin,
well, I mean, Verin behaves as suspiciously as she possibly can, particularly in this section of the books. The latter half of this book, when we encounter her, she is super suspicious this whole time because every opportunity she gets, she's standing over there going, interesting, and writing something down.
Right.
In her notebook. And everybody's like, okay, what was so interesting about that? It's just, and I mean, just randomly throughout the whole thing, she'll say, and write something down.
Right. Yeah. And you could see it as like just brown Aja, like note taking, but also maybe not.
There's a lot here that going back, we're not spoiling anything here, but just it's going to be interesting if this is your first time through. These read differently.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
On the second read through.
Yeah, there are so many things that we're going to get into that it's like I completely missed my first read through or even second read through in some of these cases. Like I'm going back and taking notes like, wait, hold on, what? So a lot going on. Fael apologizes to Perrin for pretending to be attracted to Lord Luke. Okay, yeah, whatever.
Which Perrin is like, you pretended to blush? How did you pull that off?
Right. Just that whole just ongoing. Anyway,
I will say there's kind of an important thing here that if it is your first read through, I think it would actually be helpful to just get a little hint of what's to come in regards to Fael's culture, because there's a moment here where she apologizes and then Perrin goes, oh, it's no big deal. And she gets angry with him. And on the first reading, it's, you kind of are frustrated with her because you don't get why
you're just trying to pick a fight.
Yeah, why is she like that? Well, the thing is, the Saldaean culture is very much all about contentiousness, about getting into arguments. That's considered to be endearing, is to be willing to argue with somebody. And so I think she is kind of trying to bait him into an argument. And she is disappointed with him when Perrin, being a gentle kind of guy, he doesn't do it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. Yeah, it is good to keep that in mind because otherwise it's just like, Fael, stop it.
Yeah.
And even and kind of even knowing that, even then it's like, oh man, I just wish the Saldaeans weren't like that.
Right, exactly.
But it's a fair point. It does help explain her character in a way that's like, well, she's not just difficult for no reason. So they head out, and 4 of the young men from the farm, including Alcine, decide to go with them, and are momentarily terrified when the 3 Aiel show up, and they're like, all right, we're gonna fight these. We're gonna fight them, and Perrin's like, nope. Perrin apparently has leveled up his speech skill in this book with a Taviran multiplier, very much. I mean, because it's like he's he's supposed to be just sort of this like slow talking, methodical, but he's like
he's the quiet one.
Thing. Yeah, but it's like he's speaking these people's language. Basically, is like this probably wouldn't work in, I don't know, maybe the borderlands or somewhere else, but these are his people. Yeah. He knows how to talk to them, and he can get them going. And the Verin, always a factor.
Right.
On the way to Watch Hill, Perrin spies another farm. Decides on the spur of the moment, why don't we go tell them the same thing we told the Alcenes? They follow advice too, so he stops at another 3 farms. Every time he stops, more young men decide to follow him too. So by the last one, they have like 20 more snipers in their party, which is useful. It's a helpful thing to have as you go to fight the White Cloaks and or Trollocs. So they make their way to a thicket overlooking the White Cloak camp outside of Watch Hill. Tam and Abel sort of tell them about the 3 times they've tried to sneak in to free the Cawthon family and failed. Just kind of like, oh, here's what we did, and it didn't work. So it's gradually dawning on Perrin that at some point he took charge. So this is sort of what we were talking about, but this is when he just sort of realizes it. Verin notices too, and Perrin just sort of says, I'm just doing what I have to do to keep the 2 rivers in one piece. I don't care about being in charge. I'm not ambitious that way, but whatever we have to do, basically, we're going to do.
I think it's somewhere in here that Perrin is trying to get the Aes Sedai to kind of fight with them, and Verin does explain at some point that the trouble is White Cloaks aren't Dark Friends or Shadow Spawn, and even though they're idiots and they can be a real problem, is that they can't attack them first; they can only defend.
Exactly.
And so they're not very useful in an offensive, kind of battle.
Yeah, it's like in various battles, it's like they have to sort of stand there and like, do I feel threatened yet?
Yeah, so Verin isn't very useful, but at some point in here, she says something about, well, I think it's going to rain, kind of ominously.
Right. Yeah, it's like, well, I it's going to rain in the next hour, and it's going to be quite a downpour. Yeah. So Perrin decides that they need to break the prisoners out tonight. They're not going to get another chance. They're there. They need to do it. They have people. And one big difference between Tam and Abel's previous attempts and this one is that he has Aiel that can sneak into the camp for him, and apparently they're like high-level rogues or whatever. They sneak ability leveled up. They commence to sneak in, and Perrin gets attacked and choked by a big dude, but Aiel knocks him over the head with a piece of firewood, delivers the line, "I am not a porcelain figure." I don't know why anyone would have said that you were.
I think that's an important line, though, for the character of Aiel. I feel like that altogether says she might appear that way.
Yeah, that might even be an image that occasionally she cultivates when it makes sense, but as we'll see in future books. But yeah, and it is something that Perrin himself sort of struggles with at various times, wanting just to keep her safe and not let her be in path of danger. But the reality is, as to Verin, again, he is always going to be in danger. Exactly. And if she's near him, she's going to be in danger. It's just kind of the way it is. So Perrin dresses up in the unconscious man's outfit as the 2 Maidens of the Spear ambush the guards around the prisoner's tent. They go in and wake everybody up and then make for the horses. Of course, it was never going to be that easy. A horn sounds. Perrin tells Verin that he and the Aiel are going to draw the White Cloaks away while the Luhans and the Cawthons escape. He's also planning to hunt Trollocs as if they didn't have enough going on tonight. Like, dude, just do one thing at a time, man. Get them away. Like,
overachiever.
Yeah. So on to chapter 34. This chapter is appropriately named He Who Comes with the Dawn. So we're back to Mat and Rand, and we haven't talked about them this episode, but they are jogging back from Roidion to meet the Aiel. Rand talking to himself and thinks, "I'm not mad yet." Mat gives him a look, but doesn't bother to voice the thought out loud. Like, you should say that.
Yeah, nothing sounds crazier than a person who randomly just says, "I'm not crazy."
He wants nothing more than to, run away from it all. But he knows he can't. He knows he needs to use the Aiel, so he must do whatever it is that he needs to do to make them think he's who they say he is. He needs people he can trust. Like the Tyrants, he doesn't feel like he can trust. The Aes Sedai, he just feels like they're trying to use him. He's got a few friends, but other than that, he's like, he doesn't have like an army he feels like he can really trust.
Right.
And he rightly believes the Aiel could be that army.
And what time of day is it?
It is dawn.
Right. It's important.
Yeah,
important detail.
There he is. He's coming with the dawn. That's for sure. They're greeted by Couladin, who is hurling spears at them.
Right.
They block them, and the wise men ones kind of get on to him for breaking the piece of Rodion.
Couladin, though, is a little justified because
he's like, they have weapons too.
Yeah, they have weapons. They're not supposed to have weapons.
Right, of course, Rand has like his fire sword, and Bear notices Matt's spear and mutters, "Did you find that in Rodion, boy?"
And he said, "I paid for it."
Right. Yeah, it's like, good luck taking this away from me. I've paid for it, and I'm not giving it up. So Bear asks Rand to show the signs. So he unlaces one sleeve to show his dragon tattoo off. It's more than a tattoo, really. It's like polished metal.
Right.
You could see how in the show they don't do it right. It could look really corny. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully they'll do a good job of it, because it's supposed to look almost like it's alive, like it's, moving in the breeze kind of thing. This doesn't satisfy the Aiel until Bear rolls back his other sleeve and shows the dragon tattoo there as well, because, of course, the clan chiefs all get one dragon tattoo, but the point is that he should have both of them as dragon tattoos. Thus, the Karakarn has been chosen Chief of Chiefs.
Twice and twice shall he be marked.
Do we even get the moment where he gets the tattoos? I don't think it really kind of happens off screen, I guess, so to speak.
He just he goes through all the pillars and then he has them is kind of what we're...
Yeah, like we were probably in the midst of one of the visions when it happened. But, I think it was in one of Egwene's visions that she saw like these living creatures settling into his skin. So it sounds like a sort of an interesting image, but didn't happen on screen. So, I mean, it could happen on the TV show on screen, but we didn't get to see it in the book.
So Rand asks for Moraine so he can get healing for Matt and himself, but discovers
she is in Rodion. Yeah.
And so is Avienda. Yeah.
And that's
Lan is kind of funny. Like he's like, well, I tried to go after her,
and they
but
convinced him that it would serve no purpose. I'm just imagining like a dozen Aiel armed to the teeth, like holding him down, with their spears to the throat, kind of thing. And Egwene tells them they've been in Rodion for 7 days.
Right.
Which is crazy. And rather than freaking out about how time seems to be moving at different speeds, Rand focuses on the fact that the Forsaken could be catching up to him or other enemies.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, are you not starving? Like, I can go 7 days and be like, oh, man, 7 days. Yeah. I wonder if my enemies are catching up to me yet.
He does have a point, as we find out, not too far into the this book, that they are getting closer to him at this point.
They absolutely are, as we will very much see in the next few episodes. So Rand asks Ruark if everyone sees the same thing in the columns, and the wise ones say, we don't talk about Fight Club.
Right.
It's forbidden to speak with anyone about other than the clan chiefs, and everybody should leave. And if we're going to talk about this, and Rand's like, no, I'm going to change things. This is only the first. We're going to talk about this. So, and Ruark's, kind of like, yeah, I think everybody does see the same thing. So Rand asks Ruark to arrange a meeting of the clan chiefs somewhere close by.
And he suggests the Golden Bowl.
The Golden Bowl. Alcair Doll. So the wise ones are going to inform the chiefs via their dreams to meet there, which is the fastest way to do it, so that everybody will be there at the same time. So then, while we're on the subject, Rand asks about his mother. So the wise ones are like, well, if you want to know, we'll tell you what we know.
I haven't had enough backstory recently. Right. I just need a little more.
And it is interesting here. We get the Aiel perspective, but it isn't for a long time that we find out who she really is. And it's crazy. Like, I had forgot. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what book it is in we find out. But I just happened to be like reading through the wiki and like read. I was like, oh wait, what? I'd completely forgotten that. So it's a little bit frustrating that like we get like a half the story here, so to speak.
Right. It's so clear though, the first time you read it, you're like, okay, there's more to this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it is so much more, and so much more sort of connects so many dots once you find out. It's like, oh man, that's crazy. So her name was Shael. Yeah. So she's a wetlander who became a maiden of the spear.
Yeah. Guitarra Moroso told her that she has to go to the waste. Yes,
to go dwell among the maidens to avert disaster for the whole world. No pressure or anything.
Indeed, she did, and the maidens took her in as one of their own eventually. She kind of proved herself.
Yeah, and it's like, that's not something that just happens. It happened a long time ago, back when before the Aiel were the Aiel, but more recently, wetlanders don't just show up in the waste and be like, hey, I want to join the club, and they don't just normally just let them. So it's the whole thing is very different from the norm in terms of the culture and what happens. She would die on Dragon Mount. That was the prophecy when the Aiel crossed the wall to kill Layman for his sin. And that is what happened. And of course, Rand's father's name was Janduin, he was clan chief of the Tardad and the youngest in memory at that point. Aiel died. He just sort of couldn't handle it. He went north with the young men to fight Trollocs in border. Blight, yeah.
He was the first clan chief to abandon his post. They tried to tell him that he couldn't do it, but he just walked away from it.
Right, exactly. So Rand asks why the rest of the Aiel aren't plotting to kill him, since the prophecy is that he will destroy them. And Bear tells him the rest of the prophecy of Roidion says that he will destroy all but a remnant, but without him they will be completely destroyed. So like no matter what, it's not good, but he's their only hope really for any sort of future. So then that's when Aviendha and Moiraine get back, and they're both obviously suffering sunstroke because running around naked in the desert is not great. Not a great idea.
It's true. Naked, as we say in the South.
All right, NEKKID.
Yes, exactly.
So Matt asks Rand, "What are you going to do now?" And Rand replies, "Something you should like. I'm going to break the rules." And Matt says, "I mean, are you going to go get something to eat? Me, I'm hungry." And so Rand just kind of laughs, which earns him a stare. So he laughs harder. Definitely not crazy. Nope. I hope Josha really plays up this whole crazy, not crazy thing. Yeah,
right.
I think that it's and it really does seem like it kind of increases in this book over the previous one and over the previous few. And part of it is just that we hadn't spent this much time with Rand for a while. But yeah, it does seem like it's kind of, I mean, he may not be crazy, but it's like all the pressure is getting to him, not to mention the old taint.
Ah, yes.
Delicious taint. Yeah. So on to chapter 35. Egwene meets Elaine in Tel'aran'rhiod to catch her up on what's happening, and happens to catch her dressed like one of the sea folk ladies out at sea.
Which is to say, not really all that dressed.
And not all that dressed, which is quite embarrassing for Elaine. And so Egwene's like, "What in the world?" And then her question is, "Well, what did that feel like?" And Elaine's like, "Cold." Fair enough.
Then she is in a full dress, and then she thinks of Rand, and suddenly she's in a much more attractive dress.
Right. This is what happens, like for the people who don't really have control of themselves in the dreaming world, that their clothes always reflect what they're thinking, which would be I'm glad that doesn't happen in the real world, because I feel like I would like suddenly have a battle axe a lot of times,
This is something I've seen people say, like, oh, this is the kind of business that they'll cut out. I mean, it's not like it takes up time. No. It's something that I actually kind of hope they have at least a little bit of, because it is kind of a humorous thing that,
sure.
that some of them, if they're thinking about this or that it'll change. When later in Nynaeve, it'll switch between the good Two Rivers woolens to different outfits as she's thinking of Lan.
Yeah, and I think it is fair to say that there's a lot of these Tel'aran'rhiod meetings, and so maybe they could cut a few of them or kind of put some of them together or whatever. That would be fine. But yeah, I would be sad if they totally cut them out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying that they could totally cut out Tel'aran'rhiod, and I don't see how.
No, that would be. No, I don't want them to.
That would be too massive. I mean, it's a communication tool.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we've said, that like Egwene and Elaine and Nynaeve and Aviendha are not together again for many books, but they do keep each other caught up on what's going on and continue like character development, like developing relationships just via Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be unfortunate if it was cut out
Telephone Riyadh.
Yeah, I mean, this is like if the boys had this same sort of practice, then like we would avoid a lot of dumb stuff because they would keep each other in the loop. But they don't.
Exactly.
the Matt and Rand are not in the wolf dream. It's they don't talk to wolves, so we don't have the same thing. So Egwene mentions how not all the Aiel are accepting Rand, and some like Couladin want him dead. And Elaine's like, "You better stop them," and is like holding a dagger out of nowhere.
Right.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm glad this doesn't happen in the real world. I would constantly have a dagger at work. Whatever. Amis jerks Egwene out of the world of dreams. Egwene thinks she's awake, but nope. Amis turns into an alligator and eats her face.
And then she wakes up again.
Yeah, that was for real. I definitely want that scene. This is the kind of thing we got to have this happen. Amis needs to turn into an alligator and eat her face. This is a very important plot development.
It does get to, as Amis says, she says something about, the prickliest lessons are the best ones or something.
Right.
She gets to the whole point that this is really a dangerous place, and
Right, exactly.
that the Supergirls are not really treating it that way at this point. They're just kind of like, this is our little place to meet in Gotham. And so, she's like, no, this is serious business. You can't just go in and out of the world of dreams willy-nilly.
Exactly. And when Egwene protests, Mies says you should braid your hair like in pigtails like a little girl who is too young to be held to her word. So then she makes Egwene promise to do what she says. She wants her help because Egwene still wants her help in learning how to navigate the world of dreams. Then she, after all that, agrees to accompany Egwene to meet her friends. She's like, you just can't go alone, pretty much. I'll go with you. So that's kind of how it goes. So Mies and Egwene go meet with the rest of the Wise Ones, along with Moiraine, to decide how to handle Rand. After establishing that Egwene and Moiraine have little to no influence over him, Bear orders Aviendha to shadow him day and night in the hopes that he will let something of his plans slip to her. And Aviendha is not a fan of this plan. I do not like him. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him.
Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
I literally had those words written out in my notes. I was thinking of you when I wrote them. Indeed.
Oh,
indeed.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh,
so that's the end of chapter 35. We are going to pause there and pick it up next week. Again, we always enjoy hearing from you. So visit our website at tsmpodcast.com and fill out the contact form. You can also email us at Will or Sam at tsmpodcast.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at podcasttsm. If you don't know why that's a little funny, you should go back and listen to an episode of 2 weeks ago. You'll get a little story there towards the end of what Sam discovered at TSM Podcast on Twitter. So yes, we would love to hear from you on all of those. Follow us, give us a comment, also on whatever podcast platform you're on. If you could give us a rating, like us, share us, tell people about us. We have really enjoyed seeing a lot of our listenership grow over the last few months. Quick shout out to Narg the Trollic, who posted in his subreddit about us. So thanks, everyone. And until next time, Tai'Shar Manethrin.